Okay.
Good. Welcome, everyone. It's a great day to see everybody, and congratulations to all of our American participants. Congratulations on your new president, who is probably being escorted in as we speak. So today I have developed material from my clinical experience, but also um, 3 other expert sources, because I was cued to do that by statements that many people have made, not the least of which is the title of this book, Will I Ever Be Enough? It really prompted me to get the book and start just going through it so that I can offer you the wisdom of what is the author's name, Carol McBride, as well as this. I got this for a particular new client that I have who has a very destructive dynamic that she gets pulled into. And I found that when I started to go through the will I ever have enough, will I ever be enough, sorry, have enough translates into what you do about not feeling enough, that the material in this, even though the title seems so different, is really very similar. So I'm going to, if we have time today, offer you something from that. But this is turning out to be a multi-session podcast. This is the other book that I have been having a look at, more neutral. Again, speaking more about parental as opposed to mother. So I don't want anybody to come out of this feeling that we're blaming mothers. We're not. So that's why I've titled this, and that's why I'm choosing the material that speaks to problematic parental messaging and how it influences the need to hoard. So first thing we have to do, of course, is to recognize the problem. So let's start out by understanding that healing comes from understanding and love, not blame. And we have to start loving ourselves, approving of ourselves, accepting ourselves. If we expect others to do it, we also have to stop blaming ourselves, which does not mean you have to go to the other extreme and think that because some of these things will be true, somehow it prevents you from moving forward. It doesn't. Self-knowledge, self-acceptance, and self-love, and no more shoulding are the first fundamental steps on that path to where you want to be. Because when we can understand the barriers to love, that in this case, this material today, we're going to speak specifically about messaging from our mothers, that our mothers we faced with our mothers, which resulted in their inability to give us love, this mindset, this sometimes personality disorder, but not always. Just because people tick some of the boxes and they don't qualify for the disorder doesn't mean that, okay, well then that didn't happen and it doesn't count. The extent to which the number of boxes that I'm going to go through on the questionnaire and on the 9 narcissistic personality traits exists, the extent to which the number of ticks that mean that you're dealing with an increasingly more serious, more impactful for you dynamic that, we didn't even know the word narcissistic when we were young, or even when we were adults. And many people are just discovering it now. But our self-understanding can help us to begin to take steps to ensure our own well-being. We can't change the past, but we sure can learn from it and actually benefit from it. So the goal today is to build understanding, to take personal responsibility for yourself. All right, personal responsibility for yourself in order to heal whatever impact, negative impacts, any of this material might possibly have had on you. The messages we receive from our parents, and today we're going to talk about mothers, and the meaning that we take away from those experiences, those messages, are pivotal, absolutely pivotal to ourselves as developing children. And the things, therefore, that we see as important or essential to our physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual parts. They're strengthened by the ways that we enhance those that were affected by attachment, those messages sent by our parents. That increases the power of messaging. Things like the sound of their voice. Okay, was it positive? Does it build a positivity in you? Is it a happy memory? Or is it something that you really need to kind of keep a guard on? If we grew up with these kinds of messages, did our parents also give us these messages while they were, and the extent to which we got positive solace? You know, things like rocking us as children, stroking us affectionately, and comforting us. Added to that, the way that these messages stimulated in a positive way or a negative way our intellectual growth, what was permitted to believe and follow up on and assert, and our development. Did parental messaging, the vast proportion of parental messaging, give us some kind of joy that we took away? Did we take away that in the balance of positive and negative? All right, again, not to blame parents. For those people who ask themselves, am I good enough? Here are some messages that I would really like you to reflect upon. When parental messaging was less than perfect isn't good enough, or even if they said that the takeaway message from their response was when we did less than they wanted or expected, completely independent of an objective standard of ideal or perfection, just you're not good enough for me, then that can be very, very damaging, particularly if it's a constant subtext to however they described how you were doing and what they thought about it, your performance, and therefore who you are as a person. If it was done not in a supportive developmental way, because they offered us wisdom and examples and support and acceptance as we were walking that path, learning lessons of life, finding out how to apply those lessons that they were teaching us to ourselves as personalities, developing our own skills, recognizing, accepting the truth about some of the deficits we had to work on, so that we could come out in the balance of a healthy balance of messaging. Again, not having to be perfect, but vastly more positive. We come out being able to develop our best, the best that we're capable of at that point of time, but also not being afraid to adopt a growth mindset. So this mistake, this lack of being satisfactory to even ourselves, or certainly maybe to our parents, what can I learn from that? What can I take away from that experience other than I'm not good enough, well, I'm a failure, I can't win, and now I'm afraid to take the chance of learning. of testing myself, of developing that growth mindset. So we learn from the things that just didn't turn out the way we wanted, or maybe the way our parents, our boss, whoever now in our life, our partner, feels is good enough. For many years later, each person who was hurt by these negative, narcissistic parental messaging carries a harsh critic. You know that committee? They're on that committee. They're probably the chair of that committee. And what that does is it continues to go on and impact our life to make it troubled and in many ways unhappy, uncertain, insecure. No matter what, individuals who are stuck in that, the committee is in charge, whatever they try to accomplish, they're always there, the committee, the harsh critic, the narcissistic messaging, reminding them that they aren't up to the task at hand. Don't take a chance, play it safe. Keep all of those things, because if you make a mistake, you can't possibly recover from it. You don't know how to handle regret because you're making bad decisions to begin with. And you're just not capable of realizing, whoops, you know what, I let go of that thing, and law of averages, sooner or later, I'm going to need the darn thing. And whoops, made a mistake. I'm going to recover. All right. It's that fear. And many of the messages that were in the chat box last week that we're going to talk about speak to being stuck with that insecure, afraid of making a mistake. That's because somebody judged you harshly, and now you've imprinted that message. So the internal critic can be insidious when it comes to relationships as well with other people, undermining your authentic feelings and perceptions of others and from others. Never having an internal locus of control, okay? Because you don't matter, because you're not good enough. Why would you work from your own perceptions, your own feelings, the authenticity of your own experience? Really? When did you get important enough or right enough to do that? No, instead of that, you're always going to be looking at what other people think of you, how they're reacting. And that's going to be your cue to whether you're doing well enough. Not a way I would wish you to live, all right? They carry their agenda, even if they love you. Other people have their own needs and their own agenda. The three basic questions when you're a little confounded or stuck is what? What are they? What do I need? Not what do they need. What do I need? This is my life. Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make a difference to help me resolve whatever issue I'm dealing with right now? And these critical voices, these critical internalized messages, even extending to times when you're having problems with your children, all right? Making you believe that your life choices have harmed your children and influencing yourself to blame yourself for the actual problems and choices your children are making and the problems as a result, when quite often there's little or no connection. Every time your child makes a poor choice, gets into trouble, does something wrong, doesn't mean you were a bad parent. I want to introduce you to another concept if that's where you get stuck, and that is good enough parenting. You don't have to be a candidate for the pedestal of perfection. All right. You don't have to be able to look back on your life with your children and say, oh, you know, I could have handled that better. And somehow correlate that with, I did damage to my children. If that is the case, you can still do things in the current, present to make a difference in their lives. You can help them learn from your mistakes. If you did actually make mistakes and it impacted your children, that everything you did right, wrong, or indifferent is not responsible for what your children are doing now, if that's where the wound is. These critics are always in the wings. They're nagging. They're demeaning you with an overall message. It doesn't have to be overt, you're not good enough. It can be facial expressions. It can be body language that say, no matter how hard you try, you can never succeed, right? Never be good enough. Creating in that individual an extreme sensitivity that the person constantly assumes others are judging them critically, just as they are judging themselves, making them hypersensitive. Are you hypersensitive to always looking outside yourself for security about how well you're doing? That's a red flag. Okay. So this can even be true where there's no, the messaging in from your parents wasn't overly mean. Okay. They didn't have warped, disturbed personalities. There didn't have to be, overt or even overt parent-child abuse. So sometimes too, the damage can be done by the consistency of the message. It's a simple message. It's not the harshest message, but it's just the never-ending story. And the meaning you take away from it is, I'm not doing well enough. I'm never, and then you try harder. You really try. Or you do the inverse. I can't win. I'm not even going to try. So you give up trying to succeed in the things you want to. And at that point, quite often by the time we're adults and we haven't really faced down these problematic messaging, we voice over the messages. Okay, that things like, are there any of us that haven't heard this message? I think I said this in the Monday night hoarding support group, where something goes wrong, you say, oh no, I didn't like that. That was wrong. I don't want to do that. And your parents say, what have you got to complain about? You've got all together now, roof over your head, clothes to wear, and food to eat. All right. So what's your problem? And when we ask ourselves that, when we when we disenfranchise ourselves from the right to have our needs met, first and foremost by ourselves, by knowing them, right? By exercising in behavioral ways, meeting our own needs, we start to become unsure of ourselves when we disenfranchise ourselves by thinking, oh, I'm just being overly sensitive. Before you decide that, all right, ask yourself this. Can you recognize within yourself the following behaviors? That you are hypersensitive, that you're indecisive. You weren't born indecisive. Okay, that has happened as a result of exchanges where you were kind of caught with no good, clear way, and also probably a fear of taking a chance, of running an experiment for yourself, risking making a mistake, and heaven forbid, having to learn from it. Being self-conscious. Am I good enough? What are they thinking? Reading people's, I'm very aware. I'm very intuitive. It's not a bad thing to be intuitive, but that can be mistaken for being hyper alert about the perceptions of others. All right. Lack of self-trust. Inability to succeed in relationships because you feel so inadequate and so flawed, so unsure that you bail before the other person bails. Lack of confidence regardless of our accomplishments, that no matter what you do, you always look for the way it could be better. And that if it's continued long enough or pervasively enough, a general sense of insecurity. How many boxes did each of you tick on that? And just because you can tick the box, I want you to ask another question. How many times do you do that? How frequent is that in your day-to-day lives? All right. If it is, I'm going to strongly suggest that you make a real point. If you can't attend the next, say, 3 podcasts live, be sure to tune in on the information. The other thing I want to announce is that we're going to set up, I think it's called an information board or a bulletin board, a discussion board. We're working on it now, where people can put questions, and others who have been part of the podcast, it's going to be attached to the podcast mostly, can go on and you can share information. Now, don't give advice, all right? But you can offer experience that you've had, especially where it worked for you, or be aware, I tried this and it really didn't work in these ways. So I just enhancing the community that we're building, because it's nothing for us to have 55, 65, 70 people live on any week. Okay, so let's look a little deeper at narcissistic traits in mothers and mother figures. All right. Questionnaire. Have you got your pencils and paper handy? Does your mother have what you would describe, if you already know what narcissism is, narcissistic traits? Now, mothers with only a few traits still can negatively affect in particular, their daughters, but their sons too, in insidious ways, kind of under the radar ways. Check all of these questionnaires, the questionnaire questions that apply to your relationship with your mother, now or in the past. When you discuss your life issues with your mother, does she divert the discussion to talk about herself? And we're not necessarily talking about listening to you, really attending to what you're saying, sympathizing or empathizing with you if you're feeling badly about something. Maybe you're talking about successes too. And then she's not sharing an experience she had where she had to overcome that herself, so that she's building a commonality with you. If you feel that the bottom line on when you discuss your life issues and then your mother's reaction is, yeah, that's all well good, but what about me? Oh yeah, I had a time like that too. Takes over and tells a story, but there really isn't any joining. There isn't any, we're all like that. You don't come out of it feeling encouraged and supported. When you discuss your feelings, not necessarily life issues or accomplishments with your mother, does she try to stop you with a discussion of her feelings? All right. And how your feelings perhaps make her feel. All right. Does she take over the discussion? Does your mother act jealous of you? Does your mother lack empathy for your feelings? Does she allow you to be a different person? Did she allow you to be a different, separate person who doesn't feel the same as she would feel, or one would, she says, most people, nobody feel, don't feel that way. All right, okay. Does your mother support only those things that you do that reflect on her as a good mother? Did she? Have you consistently felt a lack of emotional closeness with your mother? She tries. The two of you get along. You get along okay. You just don't feel meshed. You just don't feel close. Or there's that kind of little feeling of unsafe in some way, like insecure in some way. Have you consistently questioned whether your mother actually likes you or loves you? Does your mother do things for you only when others are watching? When something happens in your life, like an accident, illness, divorce, some kind of setback, does your mother react with how it will affect her rather than how you feel? Like, what will people say, for instance? The neighbors, co-workers, family, friends, her parents. Is your mother overly conscious of what others think? So you've got to keep secrets. Has your mother denied her own feelings so you've learned to do the same? No, I'm not angry. No, I'm perfectly all right. No, I don't know why you say that. All right. Does your mother blame things on you or others rather than own responsibility for her own feelings and actions? It's never her fault. It's always somebody else's. Or there's always a perfectly good explanation. Always. Always is the key word there. Everybody has fouled up sometimes where there's some other way to explain this away. Okay. Is your mother hurt easily? So you're so worried about hurting her feelings that you don't actually get to tell the truth about what you're doing, what you're feeling, how you are thinking. Does she carry a grudge for a long time without resolving the problem? So, after a little while, you think, well, I better not step on that because this is never, I'm going to be hearing about this forever. All right. And if you fail, if you don't succeed, if you do less than, this is something that will be brought into every conversation moving forward. Do you feel you were a slave to your mother? Do this, do that, no matter how nicely, but like you just never could actually be in your own skin. You always had to be looking at what does she need? What does she want? And then, you voice over that, right? Then you're not worrying about your own needs and your own agenda. Those will happen way down the road. And we're not talking about elderly or legitimately temporarily ill parents where you do that. We're talking, this is the story of what is regular in your life. Do you feel you're responsible for your mother's ailments, sicknesses, headaches, stress? Okay. Did you, that was so difficult for me when you did that I can hardly recover from that. You gave me such a headache. Did you take care of your mother's physical needs as a child? Was she, maybe she was depressed or anxiety or some other mental health challenge, and you were the one who had to manage that for her. That's called parentification. All right, there's an actual term for that. So if that wasn't a very temporary, I'm stepping up as a family member to support my family member in ways that I can, if you became responsible for that, or it was inculcated in you to take responsibility. So it was done so skillfully and so subtly that you offered it on a continual, ongoing basis, that became your responsibility. Because she was, this can be fathers too, all right? But we're talking mothers and children and the children. And next week, we're going to be talking about how this plays out in a detrimental way, especially for daughters, and there's a reason for that. Do you right now, or did you then, feel unaccepted by your mother? All right. Do you feel that your mother is or was especially unfairly critical of you? When you're with your mother, do you feel helpless? in the presence of her. Helpless would be something like, there is no point in me having an agenda. There is no point in me having needs. There is no point in me trying to have boundaries and limits. She just has a way of taking up all the air, all the oxygen in the room. And you know what? There's no way around it. I was talking to somebody yesterday who actually is creating a persona that is so different from her own in order to manage her mother's completely out of control anger outbursts, to protect her father and other siblings. Where is that going to end up as an adult? Is she going to get to actually develop her own personality and have her own life if she has to be the cop of her mother? Okay. Are you often shamed by your mother? And shamed can be, oh, that's just a little bit tight on you. Oh, have you gained weight? Weight and appearance can be a way, oh, I don't like that hairstyle. Oh, no, and or just always picking at you. All right. Did that happen? Do you feel your mother really, really knows you for how you're different? We haven't even asked the question, does she accept it? If it's different from her or different from a standard that she approves of, does she even really know you? Are you in her presence having to be a different person than you are when you're on your own? Okay. Does your mother act like the world should revolve around her? Nobleness, the martyr. Yeah, I do everything for my family. And quite often mothers do, but it's a different thing than to legitimize herself more than anybody else. You give what you are willing to without expecting anything back other than respect, right? It isn't a gift if there's a ledger sheet or some kind of, I get a medal for doing this and just want you to know you're indebted to me, right? So don't complain, don't disagree with me. Do you find it difficult to be a separate person from your mother? And this is what we were talking about in insidious ways. Your mother doesn't have to be any major part of any of those previous questions, but when you're with her, you just don't feel like it's a good idea, that you even know how to not be a mini me. Okay, you were put on this earth to do something different than anybody else, and you need to be who you are in order to do that. All right. Does your mother want to control your choices? Does your mother swing from egotistical, I'm the best, to depressed moods? And it's really difficult for you to know, when you go to see her or when you come home, if you're still living with her, which mother who am I going to get today? Who am I going to get right now? So you kind of have to walk on eggshells. Like, okay, let's see when she's having a good day. And you might do it with love and compassion, but it's that sort of, okay, nothing's really certain about this person. She can be anything. Does your mother appear to fully accept you? Okay. Did you feel you had to take care of your mother's emotional needs? Remember, we said being a slave is more about physical things. So you are her sounding board. And she doesn't respect boundaries or limits. You know, there are certain things about your mother's life that probably, if she wants to share with you, are a little bit icky. You know, like for instance, a personal relationship with your father or with her boyfriend or with whatever. It can be make people feel a little bit weird, more than a little bit weird, but she just doesn't have boundaries and limits. She can say anything. She can have outbursts. She can blame people in a harsh way and expect that you're going to forgive her because she's going to apologize. And somehow that just erases all of the ickiness, the stress that you carry. Do you feel manipulated in the presence of your mother? That there's always that little kind of zinger that takes away your right to free will. Okay? Do you feel valued by your mother for what you do? Only what you do, rather than who you are. Okay? Is your mother controlling? Does she act like a victim or a martyr? Does your mother make you act different from how you really feel? Like right now, you could be having the worst day of your life, but right now, just put on a bright smile because we're going to the store, we're going out in public, or I'm having a bad day. I just, but this is a pattern of this. This is not one time your mother said, I understand you're having a hard time, but right now, can we just agree we're both having a hard time? And we'll talk about this later if it's okay. All right. Does your mother, here's a biggie, does your mother always have to have things her own way? So all of the questions, all of the 32 questions that I just asked you actually specifically relate to narcissistic traits. So if there is a preponderance of experience with any of those, know that this is not normal. Even if you've normalized it, we're talking a preponderance of, not that there was an occasional, because nobody's perfect, right? The more questions that you actually check, the more likely your mother does have narcissistic traits. And this has caused some difficulty, especially for you as a daughter, as an adult. Now let's look at 9 narcissistic personality traits. All right. The combination of this is the foundation for the work we're going to do, because when you're participating in the next few podcasts, this is the filter I want you to use in order to make sense of it for yourself, to help yourself heal, to help yourself set yourself free. And that does not mean to distance or reject your mother. Okay, this is about taking personal responsibility. All right. So an example, not a great example, but I'll give you an example. So twice I have broken my left ankle tripping on a dog toy. All right. Now, to heal and stay healed, do I blame my dog? Do I beat my dog? Do I reject my dog? No, I take personal responsibility for how I need to clear the path for myself, because I have this mother, this dog, in my case, in my life. That's the difference. I don't have to reject my dog. All right. Some of these things happen, unfortunately, they happen naturally as a consequence of having the mother you have, or you're not trying to change. Now, in my case, I'd like to change the dog, but they're bulldogs, so we'll just give up on that, okay? We give them treats and bacon when we want them to behave a certain way. That's the best we can do. Mothers, you don't have to feed her bacon, all right? You just need to claim your own space and feel comfortable with it. And not that it's an armor. You're not putting armor around yourself. You're being who you were meant to be. Okay, this is your life. And you know what? For a little while, it'll be uncomfortable with her if she's still alive. But this will also help you put other experiences, if she's not with you, to peace. You'll develop more peace and love and acceptance of her, because the truth is she probably didn't get it. She probably got the very same thing she's handing to you, and she thought it was the best. It's still narcissism, all right? Even if she did her best and believed in it. It's your job to take personal responsibility to set yourself free from the damage that continues to do. Okay, 9 narcissistic personality traits. 1, she has a grandiose sense of her self-importance. For example, what that would mean is you don't want to compare notes and the person is actually not a mother. But some of us, especially on today, may associate this with someone else. A grandiose expression exaggerates achievements, exaggerates talents, expects to be recognized as superior without any commensurate achievements to warrant that perception. Is this reminding you of anybody? Okay, I'm just going to leave that one. An example of this would be a mother who really exaggerates what she's involved in and never as a first, how are you doing? Never puts her daughter first. Never asks her daughter about herself. Okay, it's sort of, oh, you're having a good day? That's great. What about me? Well, here's me. What about me? What about me? 2, is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, unlimited power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Maybe the way you love her just isn't good enough for her either. All right. An example of this would be a mother who believes her career, this is an example from the book, cleaning houses will bring her widespread recognition through the efforts of the really famous and important people, or the job she has as whatever, a secretary, a teacher, a whatever. It's reflected glory that's going to enhance her image. All right. Okay. 3, she believes that she's special and unique and can only be understood or should only really associate with other special, high status people or institutions. So no, if you're going to college, college, what's college? You know, if you don't have a Harvard degree, well, then you've got nothing. If you go in and you become a paralegal or you become a teacher, but you don't aspire or get to be the principal, well, somehow you're just not quite good enough. Okay, too bad. It would have been great if you could have done that. All right. Example of this would be the mother who takes her family out to dinner and treats the wait staff like serfs and embarrasses her family by the way she treats them, because when she has any expression of power, like I'm paying the bill, for instance, everybody is below her in her kingdom. All right, that gives her extra power and influence. 4th, requires excessive admiration, like it really truly is me. Oh, what about you? Okay, well, what about me again? An example of this would be the mother who demands praise, gratitude, compliments for every single thing she's ever done for you. All right? It's not about sharing. There are no gifts. There is always a tab. You're always going to get the bill, and you better pay it, or there's going to be something nasty about you. Okay? And it will go on. Remember when you on and on and on. There will be no end. So many people just capitulate and preemptively give it to this kind of person. Okay. 5, has a sense of entitlement that is unreasonable, with expectations of especially, we're talking special favorable treatment or automatic compliance with their expectations, because it's so obvious that they're right all the time. An example of this would be a mother who feels too important, or a person who feels too important to stand in line. That's for the serfs and peons. I don't wait. All right. 6 is intentionally exploitative by taking advantage of others to achieve his or her own needs. So an example of this would be anyone, mothers in this case, who seek out and develop friendships or alliances, but only with those people who can help her get somewhere with her own goals in life. So people are there to be used for what they can do for her. That may include you. All right. That's why you have to be so perfect, is because it's about her life goal and what reflects on her. And you're not allowed to take the shine off this kind of person. Talks about her friends in terms of what they can do for her, as opposed to their own personal likability qualities and sense of humor about their setbacks and their failures, their inadequacies. 7, lacks empathy and is really, truly unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. Anybody shows weakness, flush. All right, no, I don't have time for that. Somebody is a really good friend of hers, and then they're not useful to her. She just ghosts. An example of this would be a mother who immediately restates any story her daughters told her to point out the correct way that they should do it. 8 is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of her. Example of this would be a mother who says she has no female friends because women are jealous of her. You know those female women haters? You know, there's just something. You ever notice how women are particularly fill in the blank in some negative way? She has learned that. All right. I may use my guile as a woman, but it's a device. It isn't a legitimate expression of my sexuality or my personality or my anything. It's a device. 9, shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Everybody gets stung by being perceived as, treated as, and this can be in insidious ways, just not worth her time, or actual behavioral attitudes. Okay, an example of this would be a mother who believes that her children are too good to play with certain other children who have fewer overt material luxuries. So she really only wants to be with the group that has overt demonstrations, tangible demonstrations of their success, keeping up with the Joneses. But we're talking, this is her specialty. This isn't, I want to be the only house on the block where the lawn is, 3 feet high and we don't happen to live in the country. We don't want to be the people who we're the only person in the neighborhood where, I don't know, the roof is peeling off and we don't keep up normal standards. All right. So there are mothers who are emotionally needy and self-absorbent to the extent that, here's the bottom line for all of us, even if we tick one box and got hurt by it. They're unable to give unconditional love and emotional support to their children, their male children, but especially their female children, especially damaging their daughters. And this is why daughters get hurt more by narcissistic mothers, because mothers are the template for who their daughters naturally try to be and naturally figure out how to get there. All right. So it's like sons are impacted, they're hurt, they're negatively affected, they're manipulated as well. But your mother is not generally the template of who you try to be. Or it's still the same thing. if you do the inverse. So that's who my mother was. Now, I don't actually have a plan for myself. I just know that I will be exactly the opposite in every other way. So basically, I'm the mirror image of my mother, because I never got the latitude. I never got the support. I never got the understanding and the forgiveness for the lessons I had to learn to be myself. Okay, so let's go down to the chat box and see what people are thinking about this. Now, where are we here? Oh, hold on, everybody. I'll get that. Books mentioned by Elaine. Okay, let me show them to you, and that way they'll be on the video, and you can get their names. Here's one. Can everybody see that? Narcissistic Mothers, how to handle a narcissistic parent and recover from complicated post-traumatic stress disorder. All right, by Carolyn with a C, Foster. Okay, the next one is, sorry, Will I Ever Be Good Enough? Healing the Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers by Carol, spelled with a K, K-A-R-Y-F, McBride, PhD. And the next one is a little more neutral, all right? It's not just about mothers. A groundbreaking study that will, what does that say? Relieve hidden anxieties and heal the tensions between mind, body, and feelings. All right. Narcissism, Denial of the True Self by Alexander Lowen, MD. Okay. And I want to applaud all of you for being honest and genuine enough to say the things that rang a bell in my head. You helped me identify material that I could bring to you to help you with your own healing. I love that. What do I need? And in that case, maybe you needed to tell the truth about how you were feeling. Those messages from the committee. Why am I never good enough? Why is it not good enough? Okay, and you took the chance to make yourself vulnerable, put it in the chat, and I read the chat and I thought, there are a lot of people being honest about this. Where is it? You're on a podcast. Maybe if I say it, we can deal with this. And how do I get enough of it to make the difference in my life? Some of these books, they'll be at the library. You don't have to buy them all. All right, I'm sure the authors don't want me to say that, but you don't have to buy every book that I put up. And you can't read them all at once. All right. See if they're at the library. And if they're not, ask the library to get them. Somebody else out there needs them too. All right. Will I ever be good enough? Yeah, okay. Narcissistic mothers. Good. We've got that. Sorry, people. I just need to bring it down here. What if I can't even identify what I need? That's where I feel stuck. To everyone. Okay, Dina, if you can't identify what you need, then what I want you to do is I want you to take the risk, take a chance, all right? What do you think is right in front of you? Start practicing, grease the wheel, prime the pump with what do I need right now? Maybe something simple, okay? Right now, it's not going to change my whole life, but it is going to teach me to focus on my needs. Maybe right now my lips are dry, and that's what I'm feeling most immediately. So I put some lip balm on. Okay, that's meeting a need. It's tiny. Is it going to change your whole life? Probably not, but it's starting to teach you. What do you need next? Well, I'm a little thirsty. Maybe I need some water. What do I need next? I'm feeling really tired. And so maybe what I need is I need more rest or more sleep. So maybe I should be up working until midnight and 1 o'clock to meet a deadline. What do I need? You know, I need to be able to walk out that door and not have to step over that pile or walk around that pile. Maybe that's what I need. Start small and build from there. And start with the immediate, right? How did a baby learn to get its needs met? They just took a buckshot chance by crying and screaming. And mom or dad came and realized the diaper's wet. And they got, just by expressing how they felt. And we are babies. We are babies if we're used to focusing on and reading other people. Okay? We're infants about identifying and getting our own needs met. Start small. Express how you feel, first and foremost, to yourself. Maybe you just stand in front of the mirror and you say, how do I feel right this moment? I'm frustrated, I'm tired, I'm whatever I am. Okay, what do I need? Maybe I need lunch. Okay, look yourself in the mirror so that you're talking to somebody. Get a lipstick that has a little mirror on it and carry it with you. Go in your car. What do I need? Because then you reflect yourself. You're not just talking out into the open. Start small and build from there. You'll do it. You're a smart woman. You'll do it. Okay. And stop putting first and foremost, not forever. Stop putting the needs of others immediately before you. Maybe on that one, maybe what you do is you share, okay, what does that important person in my life need? That should be your second question. What do I need? And what does the important person or people in my life need? Right? And I don't give up what I need. I get some of what I need, and they get some of what they need. Start small, okay? And start right in the moment you're standing right now. What is the Monday Night Hoarding Support Group, and how do you access it? Oh, that's Catherine. Catherine, there's an 8-week, every 2 weeks, so it's actually 16 weeks, hoarding support group that I run, and it will be ending March 15th. Once the membership, then I will continue to do it. And if there are members in that group who want to move on to more of a group counseling, because right now it's kind of a psychoeducational hoarding support group, the next will be more group therapy, drilling down on individuals and support. After 2 weeks after March the 15th, probably another group will be starting. So if you're interested, anybody who's interested, just let me know. But once that group is set, once it starts, the membership is closed, because people need to be able to develop a community of trust. And sometimes when they want to look at issues a little more personally, they don't want to have, like today there are 43 people. They don't want to have 43 people in on it. Maybe a group of 8 or 10 that they really get to know. Okay? Okay. Now where are we? Tammy, some of these are strong yeses, re my mom, and now I have some of these too. That makes me feel remorseful. It's okay if you have them. Do something about it. You are a flawed, imperfect human being. And if you, not to blame your mom, personal responsibility, if you used your mom as a template, are you surprised you came out with the same pattern? She did the best she knew how. She probably did better than her parents at being fair and loving in whatever way she was. And I'm sure you did too. It's about doing better. it's not about not making any mistakes. One of the jokes that it wasn't such a joke, kind of a self-defense mechanism, that I did with my children when I would royally screw up, pardon the vernacular, is I would say, okay, well, at a minimum, the positive of that is you will have something to talk about on the therapist couch. All right, so let's figure out how we don't repeat whatever mistake I made, but it's made. So I take full responsibility for it, and we kind of, in a kind of a learn from it way, make a plan that we would do something differently. Okay. On that awareness, recovery, healing for 30, it's okay. You know what? We are always moving forward. It might as well be recovery and improvement, right? It's a little like I say, there are an endless number of mistakes that I can make, that I will make. All I try to promise myself is that I'll try my level best not to make the same mistake twice. If I saw it as a mistake, sometimes other people have to point that out to me. And then it's like Winston Churchill said, you know, I am prepared to learn and grow. Sometimes I just really don't like the feeling of being taught. Okay. So, don't narcissists need love too? Well, they do. Here's the thing though. If somebody is a true narcissist, it's a bottomless pit. You can't give them enough. Okay? You're never going to get that splash. That sound in them is an echo because it's empty. It's empty. Why they need all of their own and all that they can get from anybody else is that they are an empty drum. There is no bottom. There is never enough. That's why you really need to protect yourself from a narcissist. You may love them. I'm sure that there are many narcissists with redeeming qualities, but you really need to protect yourself because you will be empty and you will be inadequate. Okay. A direct message. So I will come back to a question that was a direct message with the material next week. Okay, and you know who you are. Okay, it'll be incorporated into that. Lorraine, oh boy, quite a number of those traits I definitely experienced. Now, good self-care, and what are you going? Personal responsibility. What do you need? Where is it? And how do you get enough of it to make a difference? Okay. Okay. My mom is alive and well and in recovery. Good. I'm glad. In recovery herself. Tammy, wonderful. And yes, she also, yes, a violent alcoholic family. You know what? In an alcoholic family, it doesn't even have to be violent. There are so many other perils that particularly the women and young girls face. 84% of sexual abuse situations, for instance, the Badger Report found this, so it's probably even more. In 1986, we've known this. 86% of families where sexual abuse occurred, alcohol was present as well. So it's not that in every alcoholic home sexual abuse will happen, but it certainly raises the odds because it lowers the boundaries, limits, and personal responsibility that people take. Grandiose ideas. Yeah, right, Joseph. I'm just going to say right. I have to stay politically neutral on the podcast. Glenda, someone else. Oh, yes, spouse. Married way young from father's house to spouse. Yeah. That's the other thing, too. You know, at what point did you join another person's life in a marriage? And you move, you know, we were taught at a certain point that you move from you to us. Well, if you weren't finished developing you, that can kind of interfere with the us can interfere in time, space, focus, and understanding of the you. Is there some piece of you that still needs developing? It's never too late. Anyway, you take care, and I will see you next week. Bye, everyone.